Hi guys, it's Kales, and I'm gonna talk about the books I read in April. I read 12 books in the month of April, and only one was a graphic novel, which is really cool and really impressive and a little scary, but I don't really care. Since there are 12 books, let's get this started, shall we? So I finally jumped upon the fan wagon that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. If you guys hadn't guessed that I read this book in the month of April from my These Books Are the Same video comparing this and Twilight, I read it, and I'll admit, I really did like it. I thoroughly enjoyed the world building, and Feyre took some time for me to like. Fallon I quite hated from the beginning. I don't know, I guess I understand the hype. That's what I should say. I understand the hype. I understand the gut-wrenching feeling that Sarah J. Maas puts in her books. I like that this is told a lot better than some of the Throne of Glass books. Her writing has definitely improved. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it really just got better because then I read A Court of Mist and Fury and everything just got better. Reese and The Court of Nightmares and the whole thing. This is the continuation. I love this book so much more than A Court of Thorns and Roses. I was so happy with Feyre's recovery, and also just as someone, I think this is really relatable to people who have had their heart broken or who have been in abusive relationships, emotional or physical, and Feyre's recovery. I think Sarah J. Maas does a great job of not letting her characters off easy in the sense that they go through tragedy, and she's very good about the recovery of tragedy and post-traumatic stress and how to heal from that. And I really appreciated that from Sarah J. Maas, and I really appreciated that from Feyre. And I love how she talked about that she could still give her heart away while it was still healing. I thought there was a lot of really great moments in here. That yes, the adventure and the world building and the tragedy that was the ending, oh my gosh, like all of that is in here as well, and I appreciate it and I love it. But I think something that isn't talked about as much that I would love to start a conversation about is Feyre's journey through tragedy and her coping mechanisms and her healing and what that means for her and what kind of journey that takes her on. I really appreciated that and related to it a lot. I thought it was well done. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars to both books. Then I read probably my favorite book that I read this month. It was incredible. The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. Dear God in heaven above, this book is incredible. I was worried because this book has been so hyped, and I thought it was just going to be hyped because of the content, which is about a girl named Star who is African American, and she witnesses a police shooting where her friend dies at the hands of a white police officer, and it's very much about her coping with that, her family, her life being torn between living in the hood or the ghetto and going to a mostly white prep school. It is so good. Guys, I learned so much about black culture. I can't even, I got nothing. I once spent an entire summer at an African American theater as a part of their teen program, and that was the closest I had ever been to understanding and relating to their struggle and realizing what white privilege was. But holy crap, like this just completely blew my mind. And not only that, but it was also well written. I was so happy that it wasn't just hyped because of the content. It is a well-crafted story with well-rounded characters who are empathetic and struggling, and gosh, her family dynamic in this makes me so happy. Guys, you know how much I love family dynamics in YA books because I don't think they're represented enough, and here, her family, as weird and messed up and flawed as they are, they still love each other and still stood for each other and still just, oh god, it was so refreshing. You need to read it. I feel like it should be required reading. It was fantastic and just so well done. And the reason I don't have it in my possession right now, because I did buy it, is because I've loaned it to my sister who's already read it twice. So needless to say, I got a 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read The Big F by my friend Maggie Ann Martin, which was really exciting. I got an art copy of this, and it was the final prize of Book Battle Second Chances. I have to be honest about this book. I was not the biggest fan of the lead character. She and I had problems, and I struggled a lot with relating to this character. I understood the idea of failure. Plotline is that this girl fails an AP English class that doesn't allow her to get into Ohio State, I believe, which is her top school, and her mom is like this college advisor guru who helps a bunch of kids get into their college, and so she has to go to the local community college to make up this class. I just struggled with Danielle. I felt like she was over dramatizing this tragedy. For me, I was like, okay, you can go to community college for a semester and still transfer in. What's the big deal? It was hard for me to really relate to her. I felt like she was just very over dramatic with her situation. Whereas I felt like people around her were having real issues, like her best friend as mother and her sister were fighting, and it was really hard for her to be at home, and she like needed an escape. So there was some allusions to that, and the boy interest, you know, had to go live with his dad, and there was like alcoholism and abuse in there, and I was like, wait a second, no, I want to hear more about that, and I want to hear more about that struggle that the boy interest is going through. To me, I felt like that would have been a more interesting perspective on it, was his perspective as this quiet guy who writes everything down and is coping with his own trauma, meets this girl, rather than the other way around. I just was more fascinated with the secondary characters, but that's not new for me. I am always a big fan of the secondary characters, and I thought they were really well done, and I wanted to learn more about them. Then I read The Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde, which I was waiting for this book, and I was so excited. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, because it was just delightful. It was all about nerddom and all about con life and the awesomeness that is that. I also loved the dual perspectives of two girls who are best friends from Australia. One of them is a YouTube star who gets invited to go to this con, and she brings her best friends along. The one friend is bisexual and has never been with a girl, but is going through a public breakup with this guy and falls in with this girl at the con, and it's just great. And the other friend has severe social anxiety, and that was portrayed amazingly well. And I was really just happy with the representation of nerddom and neurodiversity and sexual diversity, and I just really liked this book. I'm gonna go through this quick because I have a whole review video on this series, and I reread the Alanna quartet. It is called The Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamora Pierce, and it is amazing. Guys, if you have not read any Tamora Pierce and you are a fantasy fan, what are you doing with your life? I have to be honest, this is one of my favorite series. I gave all of them 5 out of 5 stars, and I whipped through them all of them, in a month. Audiobooks did help, I'll be honest, but I am so happy that I reread these books. Alanna is about this girl who's 10 and wants to be a knight, but girls cannot be knights, and so she decides to dress up as a boy and go be a knight. And it covers like 10 years of her life from when she's 10 till when she's 20. I just love that progression of a character and of a series and this world building, and I'm just loving being in Tortall. 5 out of 5 stars to this series, and I will be giving a full review on the whole series later. Then I read Giant Days Volume 4, which was my one graphic novel of the month. And I like Giant Days. I think it's fun. I think I just love this great sense of friendship these 3 women have. It's about 3 women in university who are just kind of trying to adult and trying to survive and failing and succeeding, and it's great, and I really enjoy it. Then I read Steal Like an Artist, 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative, which is just a short, cute little graphic book with advice for artists and life, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I was given it as a birthday present many years ago by one of my college friends, and I read it now. But I needed it now. This was when I needed to read it to help me get back on the horse with my writing and reading, and I really enjoyed it. It's a quick, short little read, like less than 100 pages, and they're all just like graphic things. This, Austin Keelan is the creator of Blackout Poetry, like for newspapers, which is really cool. And I've been starting to do a little bit of that now too. Read Steal Like an Artist. The last book that I read in the month of April was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Oh my gosh, this book is fantastic. I'm already a fan of Trevor Noah from his comedy specials and him being on The Daily Show, but this just took it to the nth degree because I got to hear all about his stories with him growing up in a South African childhood, and his mother is a badass, and I want to shake her hand. The whole story is incredible and well told and still has his wit in it, but since such sincere honesty. I really enjoyed this book. The only reason I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars was because I kind of wanted more about how he got out of that situation and became a comic, but I feel like that might be another book for another time. But that's just what I was expecting out of it, and I didn't quite get that all, but it's okay. No worries. I still really enjoyed it, and I still very much recommend it. It's a great, wonderful perspective on a place that I know little to nothing about, and I'm eager to learn more. Here are some of the books, if I can pick them all up, that I read in the month of April. If you have any comments on them, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. As per usual, yeah, especially about these two. Because, you know, I finally read them. This video's too long now. I'm gonna go. Until next time, guys. Bye. Oh, this sweater did not get dried all the way. Oh, it's cold. Okay. Ah. Then I'm gonna go through this real quick because I have a whole review book. I have a whole Anyway, you just need to unlock your creativity and read Steal an Artist. Steal an Artist. Are they vacuuming? They're seriously vacuuming at this moment.